All right, so this is the art of listening. And the reason I call it the art of listening is for some reason, human beings are not wired to listen. The first thing we love to do is talk about our. We talk and we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk. We love to talk about ourselves. We love to talk about our company. And we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk. Okay? That's part of the human condition. For some reason, somehow we feel insecure and we have to talk. We want to be recognized and we have to talk. And so most people, particularly in sales, are talkers. And what I have found is that the opposite is true. The most effective salespeople, without a doubt, in any industry and any product, are the best listeners. Let me repeat that. The best salespeople are the best listeners. Okay? If you remember that slide that we showed, the sales funnel, okay? As we go up the funnel, right, it's very, very critically important to understand what the problems and issues are that our customers have. Well, the only way you're going to find that out is by asking questions and listening. So if you ask a question and the customer starts talking and you cut them off, you're not listening. If you ask a question of a customer and they start talking and they pause, and because you can't handle the silence, after 1 second you jump in, okay, you interrupted their thought. Some people need to think, so they pause in their conversation while they're thinking about the next thing to say. So if you jump in on their conversation, right, you cut them off. And the more you do that, the more irritated they get with you. Okay? So these are some of the things that all of us do, and I'm guilty of this along with everybody else. I've spent a long time practicing on working on my listening skills, and even to this day, sometimes I catch myself talking too much. So how we avoid listening? Well, somebody's talking and you're thinking about something else. Or you just can't wait to jump in with a response. Or they're talking and you're judging what they're saying. Or you're evaluating. You're thinking, oh man, he's wrong. Or that doesn't work. Or we tried that before. We're just judging. Well, the more you judge, the less you listen. While they're talking, you're thinking about the past or the future. You're thinking about an appointment later in the day, or you're thinking about what happened earlier in the day. You're not tracking on now, so you can't be listening. You might be wondering, this guy's really boring. How do I escape? Or you might be just fantasizing about things, just daydreaming, right? Listening is a skill where we really have to get our attention units focused on now and the person we're dealing with. And it is a skill. It requires a lot of work. Okay, next slide, please. Learn to listen. So if you want to learn to become a great salesperson, if you're already a great salesperson, you'll become a greater salesperson. The best listener is the best salesperson. We've got 10 tips on listening coming up. Countless lost sales. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I'll give you just one example. I was coaching a company in San Diego that does loan processing, and I was working with the loan processors. And they did a lot of telephone work, inbound calls for people that wanted to do loans. And I found this, I don't know how many times, where the loan officer is explaining the loan, and the person on the other end, it happened to be a lady out of Rhode Island, and she stops and she goes, oh my God, I just get what you're saying. This is the greatest thing. This is the exact loan that I need. I need to get this right now. Okay? The salesperson, i.e. the loan officer, proceeded to say, and if you think that's good, let me tell you about some other things that our company does. Okay? The loan officer was not listening. That was a rookie mistake, right? That's related to missing the close. So right in the middle of the conversation, somebody you're listening to says, I need what you've got. Well, shut up and get the order processed. You're done. There's nothing else to talk about, right? So, But you're not going to learn that. You're not going to even hear that unless you learn to listen. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's some tips on how to listen, right? This is the methodology of listening. Ask about their issues. Ask about their top 3 problems, their worries. Ask about changes. Ask about, in your company, how do you decide things? Ask about, who do you go to help make a decision? Ask about their concerns or consequences. So these are hot topics. So if you're calling on a new customer, right, you can select some of these questions, ask about them. But here's the deal. If I ask them to, well, what's your buying cycle? And they go, what do you mean by that? You say, well, how does money get allocated here, and how do you make decisions about buying, say, capital expenditures in this price? How does that happen? Tell me how that happens. And they start talking. Don't interrupt them, because they will tell you exactly how everything is purchased in their company. But you have to shut up and listen to them and ask leading questions to have you tell you more. Okay? So learn how to listen. Next slide, please. Next slide is the top 10 listening skills, right? And by the way, you're going to get all of this on handouts, right? Or actually, you can print them out on the slide presentation that you can re-listen to. So, but here's the top 10. Don't interrupt. Ask a few questions, shut up and listen. Acknowledge. When they go blah, 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 you go, oh, okay. Or nod your head, or you say, I see, or whatever. Acknowledge that you're listening to them. Be willing to listen. So you have to have a pleasant look on your face and nod and kind of pull it out of them. Okay? Pay attention and focus on them. Now, this works face-to-face like dynamite, but it also works online if you're on a Zoom call, right? You should be able to see their facial expression, and they should see yours. So you now know that they know that you're paying attention to them and you're not looking somewhere else. So remember to look through the camera at them. Show respect. If they're talking, make notes, right? And sometimes if you really want to emphasize, you say, it's really important. Do you mind if I write that down? They will love it because that proves to them that you're paying attention. Make good eye contact, good positive feedback. Smile, nod your head, and also be very comfortable with them. You have to have a comfortable, relaxed demeanor so that they know that you're not sitting there trying to argue with them or judge them or jump in with what you're saying. You're just patiently absorbing what they're saying. Now, these are the top 10 skills that I've found with regard to listening. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to make a big assumption that you now know you have practiced and you're getting better at listening. Okay, so part of listening is asking intelligent questions and probing for more. Open-ended questions encourage the customer to talk, right? And it avoids a simple and no answer. It's like, tell me more about blah, 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 or why did you come to that decision, or can you describe more about, right? It avoids a simple yes or no question, right? A closed-in question would be something on the order of, did you get up this morning at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, right? And they're going to say, well, 6 or 7. Or are you pro this political position, or are you against, right? Bang, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. It narrows the conversation and closes down. Whereas if you ask somebody, why is that going, or what's going on with that, or what can you tell me about that, right? Closed-end encourages, right? So artful questioning, there's a time when you need to close it off, and there's a time when you need to open it, right? Those are the type of questions. And then finally, the last slide is the 4 C's. The 4 C's are money makers for you, okay? Next slide, please. The 4 C's. And I'll enumerate them real quickly. These are questions, the types of questions. So if you are, remember on the sales process, before you can talk about your value proposition, before you can actually sell your product, you must find out about their company, right? You must understand their needs and their wants and what really drives them, and actually what is their sense of urgency and are they qualified? So these are all questions that you need to get answered before you're anywhere near giving them a sales pitch. Okay? So remember, most salespeople make the mistake of jumping in with their sales pitch because they haven't asked questions and listened. Now, these are the 4 critical questions that you need to ask with your new clients. Ask questions that they're curious about. Ask about their business. Ask open-ended questions. You know, how long have you been in business? What is it you sell here? How many people work here? You know, just ask curious. You know, what areas do you sell into? Blah, 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 blah. Be curious. The next category of question is changes. You say, well, what's changed around here? Are you expanding or are you contracting? Who got promoted? What are your new product lines? How has your business changed? How are you dealing with COVID, etc.? Ask what's changed. That's the second C. The third C is concerns. Okay? So once you've found out about their business and what's changed, you ask them, well, what are your biggest issues? What are your concerns? What are you worried about? What are you having trouble with? And again, concerns can be for them in their division, or it can be for the company as a whole, depending upon who you're calling on and what you're trying to sell. Okay? So what you really want is when you're dealing with somebody, what are their concerns? What are their issues that you're dealing with? And they will tell you. And once they tell you some things, you say, well, what else are you worried about? What else are the issues, right? People will spill their guts. They'll tell you everything there is to know about their company if you know how to ask this question and sincerely listen to the answers and let them go, all right? So those are the first 3. Now, the fourth C is by far the most important, and it's one that people don't know about, right? This is part of the methodology that I've developed in my sales training. Consequences, right? So somebody's just told you their biggest concern is that they don't have enough raw materials in their manufacturing process and they just can't get them shipped in from China, say. That's a big, big issue and a big concern, right? So ask the customer, well, what would happen if you were solving that? What would happen if you could solve that? The customer would say, well, oh my God, that would, my life would be made. Everything would be cured. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And that tells you how important that is. And that tells you the consequences. And that tells you if you were able to go in and solve that problem for the customer, you've got a sale right now. Right? Because not only do you know their biggest concern, you know how they've tried to solve it in the past when they failed, right? And what the consequences to them were. So they go, oh my God, when we didn't have this before, our company almost went out of business and it's catastrophic. So you say, I may be able to help. And they'll go, oh my God, you can? Tell me about it, right? So at that point, you've pretty much closed them. Okay? So those are the 4 C's that I always advise salespeople to use. Ask curious about questions, change, concerns, consequences. That's why I call them the 4 C's. They all start with the letter C. Okay, final slide. In the precision selling methodology that I've been training you on, right, this is the money slide. This is, in a nutshell, on one slide, how sales work. It's first of all, you understand their problems, their concerns, their worries, their issues, their ruin, right? What is really bothering them? And once you fully understand that, the next step is you're now qualified to present your unique value proposition. Okay? So in one slide, this is the essence of sales. Everything we've been talking about is how do we get to the right customers? How do we know their problems? How do we drill down, really understand the 4 C's, understand their worries, what's really worried, what do they really need help with, right? And then we match that with our unique value proposition. Okay? Now, if you do not know their problems, their concerns, their worries, their ruin, if you do not know that, you have no business presenting your solution. It'll never work. You can't throw a solution and hope there's a problem that it solves. Right? You need to know their problems, and then you're now qualified, enabled to introduce your unique value proposition. Okay? And you'll also know, out of your unique value proposition, what part of your unique value proposition really matches with what's ruining their company. Okay? So, in a nutshell, in one slide, this is the essence of precision selling, connecting the dots, connecting their problems with your solution.